Hola mis muñecasitas and welcome to Crystal Cavern Dolls. Today I'm creating Styx, a ghostly soul collector using a Skelita Monster High Doll. So after a sprayed Mr. Super Clear, I'm starting off with a blushing. Skelita's face mold is certainly unique, and that made it interesting to work with. I found that the partially inset eyes were of particular note, since I haven't seen that on a doll before. It was honestly a bit of a surprise when I removed the features with acetone. The cheekbones as well were really prominent, and I was overall a big fan of how they made it similar to a skull. So for the blushing, I stuck to a variety of blue and gray pastels to accentuate her facial structure. I used a couple of different sized brushes, ranging from teeny tiny all the way to large makeup brushes. I also used a kneaded eraser when I felt that the blushing was too harsh, which was often. Okay, confession time. While I was working on the details of the face with colored pencils, my hand ended up blocking most of the shot. Whoops! So now you will be treated with a compilation of my hand working on the face, intercut with shots of the doll when I set her down for a time-lapse of progress. Either way, I was really excited to work on her face since her mold's just so unique. Working with the eyes was especially fun, and also her cheekbones where I made some symbols, and on her forehead. I ended up making one of her eyes without a pupil for certain reasons that I will not divulge, but it definitely made the eyes a bit easier because I didn't have to worry as much about them being symmetrical. Now we move on to the wig. As you can see, I had already prepared the wig cap and wefts for Styx's beautiful locks. This was a relatively simple hairstyle with a basic part. I did make the two sides different lengths to mix it up though. I always find that I never make enough wefts initially to cover the entire head, but when I make some more, I always end up with too many later. Someday I'll find a use for all my extra wefts, but not today. I only realized later on that I hadn't blushed her body yet, so after a round of Mr. Super Clear, here I am working on that. So this was relatively minimal, as I was focusing mostly on the legs and the arms, and for the most part I used pastels and a little watercolor pencils. The fact that it was a skeleton body made it pretty interesting. Like I said earlier, this is such a unique doll, and I feel like the designers really knocked it out of the park. To add to the more ghostly vibe, I also prepared a mask for Styx. I actually made it out of cardboard from a cereal box that I found in my pantry, which works surprisingly well as a base. To paint it, I simply used acrylic paints. I actually went through a lot of different designs for this mask. I just had so many ideas piling up in my head, but I ended up settling on a pretty simple one with a tree in the middle and a little eye hole so that she could see from her one eye that has a pupil. I also made her a staff for her soul collecting out of the same cereal box, along with a dowel and some wire. Of course, it was right back to the acrylic paint for this one. I also tried using some glow-in-the-dark paint for one spot on the staff, but the effect ended up not turning out that well, so you can't really see it in the final product. Finally, I had to make a cute little friend for her to keep her company on her long voyages between the mortal and spirit realm, and off-screen I made her some clothing, and then she was done. I'm so happy with how she came out. This doll took me all month, and I'm really glad to have finally finished her. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Adios!